Okay, I'm live. Okay, awesome. So, thank you guys for joining us here on the Politainment Report. We are streaming live this week with DEM Misfit Black Girls. We are all DEM Misfit Black Girls covering the DNC. Our special coverage this week will include conversations with artists, entertainers, activists, elected officials, and more. From a generational lens of voices and views, I would love to have you actually help welcome my guest today. Miss Bernadette Speaks and Sharar Speaks. The Speaks family will be joining us today in LA to talk about voting and the importance of voting and the local actions that they are gearing up to mobilize around and take to get voters informed, which is very important because, again, as the kickoff to the DNC happens tonight is Bernie night, and we're going to be talking to Bernie Sanders delegates as well as people from, just across the country popping in and out on our daily conversations through this whole tailgate week. I'm your host, Maleena Lawrence of the Politainment Report. Stay locked right now as we welcome our very special guest of the evening, Miss Bernadette Speaks and Sharar Speaks. Come on, ladies.
Hey!
Hey, Queen!
Hey.
How y'all doing?
How you doing, Queen?
We got it! And we back.
Yeah.
So, thank y'all so much for answering the call. Right now, as you know, across the country, protests are popping off, policy reviews are kicking off, and most importantly, the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, kicks off tonight, and we're doing a special week-long coverage on the DNC 2020 elections with a focus here on the Politainment Report as to what's happening in your neighborhood, in your community, in your state. We're going local for a national conversation with generational voices and views. That's why I wanted y'all to come in tonight, because we've been, as a family, we've been really staying in touch with what's going on the ground, asking each other, what can we do? How can we do it? Supporting causes, supporting artists, both Speaks family. I don't know, this family is just a very creative, industrious family made up with so many talents. So Bernadette, actor, director, mother, sister, daughter. Sharar, photographer, poet, writer, and of course your husband Jamal, shout out, and little Jamal, shout out. I just wanted to give y'all the introduction you deserve, because we are all hitting these streets and we got to be united to do so.
Absolutely.
So welcome to the Politainment Report and hanging out with you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No doubt. So I'm going to start with the mother in the room.
All right.
This is how it went down. Y'all know Bernadette. You probably seen her on the latest season of All American, which, a couple of my friends are on that show, and it's awesome. I really appreciate it. Celebrity, you may remember her from Love Jones, and that's a classic film. And more importantly, today in 2020, we still on these streets, and we are going hard in these streets. And so Bernadette sent me a text and was like, look, we got to get the word out. This is what we want to do. And Bernadette, I'm going to leave that to you to let us know what's going on before we get into this quick discussion here.
Well, honestly, thank you so much just for the platform. What is it? Politainment, like politics and entertainment. Politainment.
America's safest place for discourse.
You know what hey, you know what I'm saying? And I appreciate you answering the text, you know what I'm saying? Because for me, I had a conversation with my daughter. I've had a conversation with two of my friends, one who is definitely a grassroots activist. Her name is Elisa Cabrera. And she was definitely concerned about how we cannot go into this voting season without educating the masses like dismantling being overwhelmed, dismantling apathy, dismantling the lie that your vote doesn't count, you know, and being able to springboard from everything that we've been doing with beating the streets, with Black Lives Matter, with defunding the police, with Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, all of that, because it all has to do with what is going to be happening in November.
Yes.
And so it's really her vision that, of course, I'm like, let's go, let's do this. And we have to have the voices of the millennials, which is where my daughter, she has been talking to contemporary counterparts about, no, this is important and we have to let our voices be known and we have to do something from a grassroots level. So that's kind of how it all came about, right. Conversations and what can we do instead of kind of sitting around and waiting and thinking that it's just going to change, which we absolutely see that it doesn't happen that way, you know?
Absolutely. A movement never happens that way.
Right.
You might as well hop in there. Oh, go ahead, sis.
No, I was just going to say that we're, you know, we are the ancestors to, we're left as the ancestral, like, what is it I want to say? Our ancestors paved the way. We have to pick up the baton and keep going. You know,
we're responsible. We have to be a responsible generation, all together, all ages, all races, allies, with a focus. And with that focus, I want to drop it to you, Sahara, because as Bernadette said, your mom said, like, yo, you had ideas, you've been talking to your friends. What have you guys been talking about, and what's the plan of mobilizing? I got the, of course, we have the flyer, but there's some actions that need to take place. But what is it? What are we doing? What are we about to do?
Yeah, so I think it just really started with, you know, I've school, government, right? We learn about it for like 6 months. So I think in that process for me in high school, I was like, oh, it's more than the president. But what we get fed is just the candidates, right? We just get fed. It's Obama, it's Trump, it's Biden. Like that's just all in our face. And so we focus on that. And so my first voting term was really Obama's second term. So for that, it was a different personal reason of why I wanted to vote then. But the apathy, or like my mom was saying, or the disinterest of anything else, I didn't know what I was voting for. I didn't know what props I was voting for unless it affected my dad. So like I got told how you vote, or if it was like weed at the time, like there's just certain things that stick out. But for the most part, I don't know what I'm voting for. I don't know how Congress or the Senate or the House, like all that integrates and works. And then you have just your own state. Like there's just so much that goes on. Even understanding you vote twice, you know, not just the presidency election, but we have other stuff that goes on by statewide. And so this year with the protests, and just what's really been going on racially, I was like, this is the year that like I need to actually take interest, my own self, of how do I want change to happen? It's not just the president. At the end of the day, they're just the pawn, right? Like the way the branches work, they're just almost in a smaller scale, but they are so big to us because they're the spokesperson. And then I've just been realizing that for myself, but then understanding like the way social media is now, it's a blessing and a curse. So if it's readily available with information, I'm able to quickly read on that, share it, repost it, get it to like my own following count, and then I'll see like another person takes it. And so just kind of like that passing the baton of the like almost like playing telephone, right? At the same time, if it's not really available, you do have skewed views. So then there is some digging that you have to do. So I've seen some people that have stayed ignorant to only go on their certain views that they want. If it's against the Black Lives Matter movement, or if it's in support for Trump and what he's done. It's very skewed. It's not the whole picture. It's not understanding how do you look at both sides? How do you actually have a dialogue and do your own research, and then, you know, find out for yourself on your own views. I've had people explain that, yeah, if it's not accessible, they don't know about it. It does get really overwhelming. I have people that are like not still registered to vote. They don't know how they want to vote. I just actually got a text today like, hey, did you hear what's going on with the mail-in ballots? And I'm like, yeah, but you still have the mailman that picks it up, so you can still, get it in. But then I'm like, did you even register to vote? They're like, I don't know what to register as. And so it just gets like this melting pot of like this crash course, and then you don't want to be part of it anymore. You're almost like, it doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count, right? Like when we saw last year, the popular vote was for Clinton and she didn't even win. Right. So then you're like, why am I voting?
Right.
What's the purpose of it? It doesn't mean anything.
Right. What's the purpose of an electoral college? What's the purpose of, voting on election day when we got hijacked anyway, or we got hackers from other countries, so you're bringing up some valid points.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, if I know that I need to take this more seriously and be invested in it, how many others are just like me? And then I'm personally connecting with people. I was like, I first really started with, hey, who wants to kind of like build a team to come together, and kind of research on what we're voting for. So it's not really even, hey, you have to be this party, or you have to be this party, or you have to have this view, or you need to have this view. It was just, what are we doing? And that's kind of where I started. And people, I think, agreed with, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know what to vote for. I'm not registered. And so I was like, hey, Alyssa and Karen and my mom wanted to put on this event, and they're asking me. And I was like, biggest thing for millennials and Gen Z is make it accessible and make it simple. The moment that it becomes complicated, it's like, I'm over it. I'm not interested. I'm good. Like, I'm seeing people now, like, voting doesn't, like, they're like, oh, the president's like, both of them.
It's like the emoji.
Yeah, it's all of that. So
most definitely.
So I was like, the survey I thought was a really good point to start out. Like, how do we really cater an event that's going to be beneficial? And then I wanted it to kind of be like, hey, if you couldn't even make the event, but you wanted to tell a friend, how do you now create your own circles of a community? Right. To make it easy for your guys' selves, in it kind of like pulling together, almost like a research project. Like the more hands-on, the easier your project is and the paper is. The more that you're just doing it yourself, the more you're like, I'm overly exhausted. And I think that's just the climate we're in right now too. Everything is exhausting. A lot is happening at the same time. Social media is constantly in your face. But it's like, you can't disengage. This is the time to even press in more. And so I felt like this is a definitely pivotal time for a lot of our generation, especially Gen Z. They're the ones that are now being able to vote and register, because they're the ones that are
and we need Gen Z. We actually need every generation. The good thing, here on the Politainment Report, this platform is specifically for generational voices and views, because if something impacts one, it impacts all, be it a family, a community, or individual. And so we actually operate from that consciousness. And you said a lot, but everything you said is so valid, because, and we're all shaking our heads, because as Bernadette said earlier, we want to squash the apathy. And as you said, we need to make it simple. Well, I'm like, make it plain, be it a policy matter, be it a candidate. We have to really learn how to turn on our lenses and slow down to like filter when it comes to social media. So it's a tool. And so I'm going to get into how you're using the tool to go to the next steps of engagement, from protest to the next step of action. And this is our civic action and our civic duty. We don't have a lot of time, but the minutes we have left, I want to talk about why it's important, why y'all think it's important for people to stay engaged and vote. And then also, why is it important for, in your own words, why is it important that we take this election, the 2020 election, so seriously? Not just because of the Biden Harris ticket here. That's I'm talking all week about this ticket, also about the issues. So go in and tell me what matters to you the most from your perspectives as a family and individually.
I,
So how you want to
you
go,
want to
or you
go?
want me to go?
Okay, I can go. I think for me, it's been I can't sit here and be mad about something and I'm not doing my part.
Right.
It's kind of like you're complaining for what at this point, and so I know that I'm supposed to be here for doing something. So I feel like the biggest important is I want real change. And that means I got to do everything that I can, whether it's with voting, whether it's with sharing something, whether it's I'm out protesting. I got to do my part. And it really falls first on you before I can look at who leads me. Because I can't be mad at who's leading if I'm not doing my own part in part of this. And I live here too. Like I'm part of this world. So I'm not just a body. Like I feel like it's the empowerment I want to give people. Like, hey, it's so much more than just X, Y, and Z. Like you have way more to offer. So I think there's empowerment in finding that within yourself, but then learning how to give it to others. And so I think that's why it's important to vote. Cause like I said, it's not just about who's running for the presidency. It's about
and
everything.
this year it's a presidential election. Excuse me. It's a presidential election, and it's also a local election for Congress, for city council, the prop. So,
So I think what I'm realizing is because there's been this, whatever reason, whether it's a lack of knowledge, whether it's a lack of resources because you can't go vote because of work. You know, we've even had discussions about having a holiday on voting day so that people that cannot normally vote can actually go vote, right? Which are the lower income people, right? But what I'm realizing is that we're there because people have not been voting. It has actually become harder because our votes from a popular standpoint at the local level. You know, when you get to the national level, you're talking about the electoral college and all that. But at the local level, the popular vote wins, right? And people don't even realize that. You know, the fact that people aren't voting, then that lends to changing voting laws, which have happened, re-signing polling places, which have happened, purging voting rules, which have happened. And so we have to go, we cannot no longer sit by and think our vote doesn't matter. That's a lie. From the local level, that is where change happens. By the time it gets to the presidency, you know, if you want people to have your back, then you need to take care of that local level. And it's and definitely making it simple, like ABC. You know what I mean? Because I know for me, I'm a very intelligent human being, but for some of these judges and some of these policies and secretaries and all, I'm like, who are these people? You know,
what are they for? What's their background?
Right, and what is their what is their reputation? You know, and do I want them in office? And everybody needs to stand accountable. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. You need to stand accountable. And if our vote didn't matter, then they wouldn't try so hard to dismantle it. Right.
And on that note, this is where we got to disrupt the system. You know, this is where we really have to be conscious disruptors, conscious misfits, conscious citizens, constituents for change, creatives. Like now more than ever, to Sahara's point and yours, our voice, how we're viewing and looking and perceiving what's happening right now. And this is going to be taking us to our last comment and your feedback for call to action is looking at, I mean, come on. We're in a pandemic. A lot of people are quarantined due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And so this virus has disrupted our society on every level. Every level. Everybody's impacted. Everything is impacted. Our social construct, in order to rebuild, what do we do and how do we do it? And that's what I want to ask you, because our mailing system, United States Post Office, is under scrutiny, literally looking like it's going to shut down. I've been behind mail trucks every day for whatever reason. So I just be taking pictures. I think I got like 10, 20 pictures of a mail truck in front of me. I mean, because I'm like, in my mind, will this go away? And how does that make me feel? It makes me feel rebellious. It makes me feel angry. It makes me feel at one point helpless, but not really. And so when I looked at it and I was just like, but we signed the CARES Act 45 signed the CARES Act. That distributed like $400 million across the country to different states. So we have the Help America Vote Act specifically for distributing funds in states to prevent voter restrictions, voter to make it easy and accessible and making voting possible in these districts. So I'm hoping they'll deal with that during the DNC this week. What are you guys hoping for on our way out, and what can we do to help?
Yeah, I think the survey that we do have it up for a little bit. We are trying to close it, soon. We want to respect the down ballot, the mail-in ballots that should be in October. So that's coming up soon. We're trying to host the event in September, give it enough time for people to feel like they can look and know what they're doing before they vote. So I would love if people can go to my mom's page, my page. The link is in our bio. It's super quick. It's like under a minute, honestly. It's like, hey, are you registered to vote? Do you know what a down ballot is? And what would you like for us to address to make it easy for you? What do you not know? So it's just really basic questions, and then picking the date that you find will be best to attend the event. I am thinking maybe us recording it, Instagram living it, doing a type of live for the event. So yeah, I think that's something that people can feel like they can do now. It's not overwhelmingly big, but it is important because this is for the people. It's not for us. It's to help you guys. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And Bernadette,
I would say,
action.
I would just say that those of us that have access to the internet, I think whatever information that we can get, we have to take it upon ourselves to spread that information. We have to take it upon ourselves to have conversations with people. And I think word of mouth is always the best marketing strategy, right? And so word of mouth when it comes to voting is really what's going to impact the masses, person to person, right? And so the that we're having is open for anybody to come. And we're really hoping that it helps empower people forth and say, hey, I don't know everything, but I do know this. Just like you do with us. Like, you really are a motivator for me, Maleena, because you're always like, yo, look at this list, look at these people, and I pass it on to my family, and I'm like, hey, this is who's down. This is who's running for this. This is who's that. You know what I mean? And I'm able to do my research, it's in a condensed form. And I think that's our part to help make a change moving forward with this election. It cannot continue with the leadership that we have.
Well, I want to say thank you to both of y'all. We're not done yet, but please follow Bernadette and Sharar. Follow Politainment Report. Follow them black. Excuse me, them black. I'm sorry, y'all.
Black people,
black girls, and follow all of us. We have to. I just want to say too, a shout out to my sister Dallas, Dina, and Gina for creating this platform, DEM Misfit Black Girls. We're covering DNC all week long. It's going down on this platform. And we can't even apologize in advance for just being raw, uncut, and some conscious misfits up in here. Thank you so much, Bernadette. Thank you, Sharar. Please get involved, you guys. Make sure you go vote. And we are looking forward to finding out how the DNC is going to combat election rigging and protect our rights to vote. In the meantime, we have our own duty and our own responsibility to make sure we protect our vote at all costs. Absolutely. So get involved, follow our guests, follow us, stay engaged, stay locked right here every day at 5 p.m. Check us out, and it's going down. We will keep you informed. We'll ask you questions, and we'll capture your views, because it does matter that we all move in one voice.